How much wood could you chop if you
You know what,
chopped
Steph?
wood?
Just cut the music. Just cut it. Guys, no intro. Sorry, Gary, we're not going to do an intro today. This is a, kind of a shoot to the pooch kind of situation here because you and me are really upset, Gary.
I get it. No, I get it.
Me and
For
Gary,
sure.
to the audience, I'm sorry if I sound pretty upset here because I am. I mean, this is nonsense and it's not acceptable. And Gary called me Gary called me the other night at midnight. I think it was maybe midnight or 1 a.m, Gary, and he said, Larry, you need to get on your computer and look at what just happened. And Gary, what happened?
Well, you were just stomping on your shag carpet. That's how angry you are.
Well, this is beyond ridiculous because Glenn's posting more crap on our channel.
Well, he's going off about how he's going into court and blah, blah, blah. And honestly, he deserves what he gets.
Well,
he thinks that the good Lord won't water the trees and he needs to do it.
Well, this is ridiculous. This is the issue, Gary. I don't know where Paul is. He hasn't showed up for the 15th time. We're still paying him a full-time paycheck. He hasn't shown up. The only people that know how to log into our channel is you, me, and Paul, Gary. So Glenn is sneaking on there. He got somebody's password. He probably stole it. And he's on there ripping us off, posting his stupid podcasts on our channel. And he's telling everybody about this stupid nonsense, watering full-grown adult trees on Jorge's lawn. And you know what? God bless Jorge. And that's what I've always said, Gary, and you know that.
It infuriates me.
I say God bless Jorge. And I don't like the fact, I'm just going to say this secretly because it's a little bit racist, but I don't like the fact that Glenn calls him George because that's not his name. He doesn't pronounce the J's.
It's ignorant. He's an ignorant person.
His name's Jorge. And you know what? I've met, Gary, you know Jorge. You've known him for years.
Yeah, for sure I have.
1 year. So what, not years, but you've known him for a year.
I was best man at his uncle's nephew's funeral.
Well, and Constantine. You're at Constantine's funeral. And you know what, Gary? When you were best man at his funeral, I was there too, and I said, Gary's going to be the number one guy. And that's why we've always connected with Jorge.
And I think that's the seed. That's the seed that was planted between Glenn and I. Well,
here's the issue, and Gary, you were reading some notes because...basically, I called Gary tonight, and I said, Gary, you need to listen to this podcast again, and you need to take some notes because we've got to respond, and we don't have a lot of time. There's people out there. We've got 11,000 listeners on our last podcast. On our last podcast, we have 11,000 listeners. If you don't believe that, look up the statistics on iTunes. We've got 11,000 listeners, and we're pretty excited about it. We've got people in Czechoslovakia. It's just called Czech because Czechoslovakia it doesn't exist. It's just Czech.
That's right.
Oh, Gary, I just really want to say hello to our friends in Czech. Our last episode, we had 144 downloads in Czech, and I didn't know they speak English. To be honest, Gary, I didn't know they speak English.
How do you say hello over there?
Lashmalashka. I think Zangief from Street Fighter was from Czech. Remember Zangief, Gary?
Oh. Yes, I do.
Gary, remember Zangief?
I remember Zangief.
He had that kind of a star patch of chest hair, and he had some shin hair too. He had a patch of shin hair too, didn't he, Gary?
He did. He was a good wrestler.
Gary, this absolute bullplop. Glenn says I was out there in Italy, and you had a couple good points. I wanted you to say that to our audience because they know the level of wisdom that you bring, but I don't know if they understand the kind of insight that you can also bring. And you kind of landed on something here that I think really kind of puts a pin in the eye, so to speak.
Well, he's going on and on about how he wants to be friends with me, and he knows darn tootin' well that I'm friends with persons. And the issue that I have, he keeps on.
Gary doesn't necessarily like people. That's what you're saying, Gary. You don't like necessarily people, but you like individual persons, but you don't necessarily like people. That's
right. That's correct. And the seed that was planted at Constantine's funeral,
you're his best man.
Waters.
You were his best man there, Gary.
I was. But Glenn continually waters it over and over and over again. And one thing he said in his speech on the radio station we were listening to was he was bragging about his trip to Italy. He kept on saying he wants to extend a quote-unquote olive branch.
Gary, that was a podcast. That wasn't a radio. He's using our channel on our podcast. Gary, he's stealing our podcast channel, Gary. That wasn't a radio station, Gary. Mr. Gilbert, Glenn's been stealing our channel. He's been stealing our radio show. You call them radio shows, Gary. He's been stealing our... That's our radio show, Gary. Mr. Clutterbuck's the guy that you're struggling with is putting his voice out there snarting around on our radio show, Gary.
Dang, Tanky.
What's that, Gary?
Well,
What's that, Gary?
Well,
Did you say a bit of a...
action.
Did you say a cuss word, Gary?
No.
My goodness, that sounds like someone's got real riled up because this nonsense with Glenn. And I've been friends. I'm going to slow down here. I got the producers, Gary. They're looking at me and they're like, Larry, you got to slow down. You're fired up, and my face is, red as a beet because I'm really fired up.
I love beets.
But me and Glenn have been friends for years. And Gary, you've been friends with Glenn for years and 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 years. And that's, you took Glenn out in your Buick Enclave. You took Glenn up to Lions Lookout in your Buick Enclave, and you guys spent, hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours there, kind of developing the show with us and talking and just really being honest. And a little bit of some of this hurts, doesn't it? Because it feels like Glenn doesn't care.
No, and he keeps lying. He's a liar.
He's being a bit of a liar because
he's never been there. He's never been to Italy.
Gary, I don't think he's been to Italy. He was in jail. I mean, he said at the start of the show he was dumping, tens of thousands of tons of water on Jorge's front yard with a water plane. That's illegal, Gary. I don't care I don't care which way you put the shoe on, forwards or backwards. That's illegal, as they say.
How did Mr. Clutterbuck Sr. even produce Glenn?
Oh, for Clutterbuck Industries, he's an incredible gentleman. In fact, we wanted to do a commercial here because he's been sponsoring us and he's been paying quite a bit on this show to keep the show going because he's a very big supporter, Mr. Clutterbuck, Mr. Clutterbuck Senior. Yes. And so let's just take a second here. We have a little commercial here from Clutterbuck Industries.
Welcome to Clutterbuck Industries. We have the driest lumber in southwestern Ontario.
You looking for wood? Look no further than Clutterbuck Industries. Run by Glenn Sr. and two of his three sons, Stephen and Jonathan, Clutterbuck Industries is known for their honesty and integrity. There's a quality of character that you can come to expect from Clutterbuck Industries as they continue their focus on premium lumber and construction.
Clutterbuck Industries.
I know I speak. Thank you guys so much for coming back, and thank you Clutterbuck Industries for all your support. We have fans from all over the world. We have lots of sponsors, Gary, that are clamoring to get on the show. We've reached nearly 11,000 listeners on our last podcast, and there is a lot of sponsors, but someone that really sticks out to us is the Clutterbuck Industries.
Clutterbuck Industries,
and that's a sponsor that we really want to maintain because of their strength of character and they're really proud. They're a proud company, such a proud company, Gary. And you always say that. Gary always says that. Gary says,
as they should be. They have pride products.
A little bit of shame when it comes to Mr. Clutterbuck's. Glenn, obviously, but Glenn Senior, there's nothing but pride there. He's a wonderful man.
Clutterbuck Industries. We've been around a while. Ours is the driest wood. The driest wood in the nation.
But Gary, there was something that you pointed out to me, and I didn't catch it the first time, Gary. When I re-listened, I said, yeah, oh my goodness, Glenn's talking about buying plastic trees, which is first off instant removal from the wood enthusiast community, and we've said that the day you join up and you sign your contract, it's in there. It's in there that if we hear rumors of somebody buying plastic trees, then they're instant. Plastic trees for Christmas, no less. They're instantly removed. And Gary, you were the one that put that clause in. So officially, I wanted to warn the community that if Glenn is contacting you as part of the wood enthusiast community, they need to know that as of right now, we've suspended his his license, and we've suspended his contract with us, and he's not currently a member. His membership's been expelled currently from the wood enthusiast community.
He never even paid his membership fee.
Well, his dad did pay them for us because his dad wanted him to have a community, Gary. His dad wanted to be part of the community, so his dad did pay. I didn't tell you that because I took the money myself, and I kind of give it to Steph and Lisa because Paul wasn't doing his work, so I was paying them off kind of over Christmas vacation. Oh my goodness, excuse me. So his dad did pay, Gary. His dad did pay for him. His dad did pay, so we're going to expel his membership for now. And like Gary said, expulsion means, no ifs, ands, or buts. But I'm kind of putting a suspension clause in there because I'm hoping Glenn can really turn this around. He's just being ridiculous. It's disgusting. He's disgusting. He's a disgusting person.
He's a disgusting person.
He's a disgusting person. He's a disgusting person.
He's a disgusting person.
And you know that. Everybody here.
He's a lying racist. He's a lying racist. That's what he is.
Oh my goodness. Explain that, Gary.
In his, I guess you say it was his podcast, he talks about how the Orients...
It was our podcast. It was our podcast. He put it on our channel, Gary. He's an idiot.
Yeah, well, yes. But he said how the Orientals water plastic trees, and I'm going to say that he's racist.
That sounds racist to me, Gary.
Yeah. The whole nation should be angry
at Glenn. Like they say, Gary, that's 2 apples in a bucket, You can't drive you can't drive around in a Buick Enclave and think you're stupid. Obviously, you've got something going for you, Gary. That's 2 apples in a bucket.
What about the carrot, though? Right? That's my whole point.
He's the idiot,
Yeah.
And
my other huge concern is he's putting all these plastic trees in his house, and he says he's watering them. But I bet his house is full, just to the brim, of mold. And frankly, I'm super concerned for Lucille.
Well, I'm Gary. I was going to tell you we should give Lucy a call and see if she needs any support because I know they've been dating for years, and she just goes and visits. Obviously they don't live together; it's inappropriate. But I was going to tell her I don't think she should visit if he's putting that much moisture into his plastic trees. I mean, obviously real trees, Gary, are going to soak up the water because it's nature. It's nature, and that's okay.
Right. That's right.
But this nonsense about watering plastic trees. I mean, what is this, witchcraft? What are we believing in now, Gary? Witchcraft? You're going to water plastic trees until they become more... This is stupid, Gary. I can't even believe we're talking about this on our show, Mr. Gilbert.
That's right.
This is stupid. You know what? Let's just do this, Gary. Let's just do this.
Yeah.
Listen to me for a quick second here, Gary. Let's just end this conversation with Mr. Clutterbuck. We're done. I know I don't like my brains being rattled, and you know that,
Larry,
Gary.
do you hear that?
Yeah, I do.
That's the book being shut on this.
It's the sound of silence. As they say.
Let silence do the heavy lifting.
Who was that, Gary? Was that Simon and Garfunkel who did the sound of silence?
Yep, Simon and Garfunkel.
I really like that sound. I really like that song, Gary. Gary, I want to transition here. We have something really exciting, and me and Gary have been we've been chomping at the bit here. We've been talking for quite some time. We've kind of got a kind of a new opportunity. We're gonna be spewing some guts here on some new podcasts, Gary, and we're gonna be doing some reviews. And Gary, for people that don't know Gary, he's quite a man of nature. But Gary also has a cell phone, and he's been getting into a few different games, haven't you, Gary?
I have.
Gary's been getting into some games.
I've been getting into quite a few game.
That's right. Games, because there's 3, but game for right now specifically. But we have a fan, a gentleman. His name's Ryan. He's an extreme fan. He's an extreme fan of mine. He says I'm one of his favorite celebrities, and he's the one that always compares me to John Travolta every time. When we meet, we're usually at a book signing or something. Ryan will be at the front of the line waving his book, saying, "Oh, please, Larry, please sign my book." And I've signed the same book 7 or 8 times, Gary. You know that. Gary signs it. Gary signs it every time. Gary signs it with pencil. He likes a lead pencil.
Yep,
so Ryan is kind of a prolific a video game inventor. He likes to invent video games, and this is true. This is true. For people that don't know this, they need to listen. They need to listen. They need to listen to me right now because I'm telling the dead serious truth. He owns a company called what's it called there, Gary?
The Farm.
Isn't that amazing, Gary?
Mm-hmm.
Instantly, I hear that and it just kind of relaxes me, and that's what I love, Gary. But it's called The Farm. It's called The Farm, and he invents apps, and he comes from a very wealthy family and a long line of horse racers, and he invents some horse racing apps, and that's great because we love horse racing. We do it all the time. Gary's no skin chicken to horse racing, and that's what we always say. He's no skin chicken.
What do you eat at the horse races?
Well, I like snacks. I just get snacks. I just get all sorts of different types of snacks, Gary. And you know that.
That's right. I get the nachos.
And every Gary, every time I say, hey, Gary, can I have some of your chips and salsa? And he says, no, they're nachos. Every time I say that, remember that, Gary?
That's right.
Remember that, Gary? I always say, hey, Gary, let me have some of your chips and salsa. And Gary says, no, they're nachos. Kind of like it's like you're saying that they're not yours, but you're using it in kind of a joke because they're actually nachos. And you're telling me it's not chips and salsa, it's nachos.
That's right.
You make that joke every time, don't you, Gary?
I do. Do you know what kind of apps Ryan is making, though?
Ryan's making appetizers, but he's making, he also makes applications, Gary. Applications. Those are the games. Those are the games that I installed on your phone, Gary. Remember those games I put on your phone?
Oh, games.
Yeah, he makes. Yeah, we call them apps, Gary. And he makes some wonderful games. And so we've kind of been connecting, and this is exciting for all of our listeners. We have kind of an exciting new kind of platform because there's a game that me and Gary have fallen in love with. And we're not going to talk about that game quite yet because we're still signing contracts and kind of dabbing the old blood on the piece of paper, so to speak. But we're gonna start working with the farm, the app company, and Ryan, who's kind of a big fan of ours, and kind of reciprocally, we're a big fan of his. Now that we're so addicted to these games, we have a good friend Tyler. We have a good friend Tyler from up in Muskoka who doesn't even speak to his kids anymore. He just sits on these games, playing them. So he doesn't even speak to his kids.
He's ignorant.
Yeah, he's ignorant, but that's what he does. He likes apps. He likes snacks too. So we're going to start talking about that in one of our podcasts. It's going to be an offshoot because he's going to be putting our podcast on his show as well. Hopefully, anyways, because it's kind of an expensive venture for him. Because as Gary says, we're not cheap. Our celebrity and our fame kind of precludes us, but it also, it comes at a cost, doesn't it, Gary? It comes at a cost.
14 at least.
Yeah, 14 to 17 maybe. We haven't really, kind of gone over the numbers, but this is kind of an exciting venture for the wood enthusiasts. So not only are we, we're, brilliant when it comes to wood, and that's all we talk about. That's literally, from wall to wall, that's our entire show. All we do is discuss wood, Gary.
Mm-hmm.
That's just what we are. That's what we do. That's who we are. That's our smell. That's our, our visual. That's, take all the sights, takes all the sounds. That's us. That's wood. But now we're kind of stepping into a new world of technology because we're so famous that people want us to start kind of reviewing some stuff with your games, and there's one that I'm really excited about, but we're going to get to that really soon, Gary.
I wonder if Ryan likes quesadillas.
Oh yeah, he probably likes that apps. Oh, who doesn't? I know he likes. Yeah. I know he likes the wood enthusiasts. And there's a young fella. There's a young fella that works for Ryan. Ryan's got a massive staff. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that work for him. They're developing these applications. And one of them's name is Ray, and he has nothing to do with the actual development, but he's kind of a comedian. And we've been talking to him a little bit, and I said, quit playing those keyboards, Ray, and let's just get down to business. And that's what we've been doing. We've been getting down to business.
I met Ray. I didn't find him too funny.
Oh my goodness, Gary, stop, Gary. We don't have Paul to edit this out, Gary.
I'm sorry.
So let's end this.
Gary. Yeah.
We can't talk about that, Gary. It's in contract.
Well, I'm just going to say one word: aluminum. That's it. I'm out.
Well, it's in contract. We can't discuss that. We're kind of moving on here, Gary. Anyways, we wanted to end this and just say Glenn's out of the fold. He's not part of this, and we've got a long ways to go. And we're going to respond a little bit more about what's going on. But as of right now, wood enthusiasts, we're moving forward. We're moving up, and our fan base is growing, and our sponsors are growing. And thanks to Clutterbuck Industries and the farm, the application series. Let me just say this to my fan base: go onto your application for your iPhone or for your Android device and look up the game World Wrestling Management. It's a really fun game. It's very addictive. It took me a few seconds to figure it out, and we're going to review this a little bit more. But for right now, just open up the game. Let's download it and let's have a look and leave a comment, leave a comment wherever you do. We're all over social media, as Gary knows. We're all over social media. So leave us a comment, but let's talk to you later. Let's end this show because we got a long ways to go. Glenn's an idiot. Glenn is no longer wood enthusiast for now. He's suspended. Gary?
Larry, can I tell you something really quickly?
Yeah, what's that, Gary?
Last time we were at the book signing, I looked over and Glenn actually signed someone's Bible.
Oh, he's an idiot.
Yeah.
What? That doesn't even make any sense to me, Gary. What an idiot. Well, you know what? You know what? That doesn't matter because he's not part of our collective. So that doesn't matter. And this is, Steph has really stepped up in place of Paul too. So, Steph deserves some recognition as well as, Lynn's. So
new tides.
We're moving onward and upwards. So thank you so much again.
Leads.
Thank you for listening to Wood Enthusiasts and for our very last podcast of 2018. For our very first year. Thank you so much from the Wood Enthusiasts, from Gary and Larry, your hosts for Wood Enthusiasts.
Well, I'm a wood enthusiast. I love to look and build and cut and have sniff. And if you ask me, what do I love best? Well, I'll tell you wood, 'cause I'm an enthusiast. Sycamore, oak, aspen, pine, and fir, hemlock, maple, willow, dogwood, and poplar, ash, hickory, beech, tamarack, and cedar, hawthorn, jackpine, buckeye, cherry, and birch. 'Cause I'm a wood enthusiast. I love to look and cut and build and have a sniff. And if you ask me, what do I love best? Well, I'll tell you wood, 'cause I'm an enthusiast. 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 Enthusiast.